Hey y'all, and welcome to the final heart talk of 2020. I've done about 50 interviews so far this year over the last 7 months, and I've come to realize this has been one of my longest relationships. So I'm really excited today to do things a little bit differently. Those of you who've been tuning in, I so appreciate it. Chloe and Sahana, I see y'all. So today we're going to be chopping up with an old school cat, Akim Funk Buddha. He is been described as the urban oracle. So first I'm going to do an interview of him, and then at 6:45 we're going to flip it and he's going to interview me. Now the surprise will come at the end. Don't worry, we'll be back in 2021. But the surprise is that next month, Akim is actually going to start his own series on Alpha Arts Alliance, and I'll let him reveal what the name of that series is going to be. But there's some really dope people lined up to be on it. It's going to be grand, and it's going to give me time to focus on some other things as well. So I'm going to give it a moment to hop in. I'm in a different spot in my house today, as you see. This is my pot head. So I decided I'd jazz it up a little bit with a different spot in the house. Hi! All right, let's go ahead and get started. Kim is in here. And here we go. So first interviewing, flipping the script, and he's going to interview me. Guys, I gave myself a hair trim the other day. I think I did an all right job. Hello?
Hey,
How are you?
I'm doing all right. Just trying to get the right angle together here.
I hear the little guy in the background.
Yeah, he's in the other room, but you know, the sound waves travel.
Well, he knows his auntie is close by, so he wants
Yeah,
to hang.
yeah.
So I'll do a little intro for you while you set up. Guys, this is Akim Funk Buddha. If you were at the Henna House Stoop sale, you might have heard his throat singing, a polyphonic type of song. Akim has been really active in the dance world, in the music world, and really one of the earliest hip hop waves in New York. He was born and raised in Africa, South Africa, and then Zimbabwe, and then over the time has traveled and has global influences in his music and in his dance, and also just in his whole persona, which is why I love New York and Brooklyn, that we all come to find each other here. So welcome to Heart Talk. Okay.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you. Just
welcome.
Point of clarification. You can hear me okay, right?
Yes.
Okay, just point of clarification.
Yeah, please clarify.
I was actually born in Syracuse, New York, as a child. And then I family traveled to Zimbabwe. But first, Zambia, my mom's from South Africa, and went to school in Zimbabwe. So I still did grow up in Zimbabwe, and I experienced the birth of hip hop, both in America and in Southern Africa when it was birthing.
Let's go right into it. So what were your earliest memories of seeing and experiencing hip hop?
So first of all, back then, Zimbabwe was Rhodesia. We're looking at a different world. My parents were fortunate enough to get scholarships to study abroad in Syracuse, New York. So I was growing up watching Soul Train. I was growing up experiencing the soul and the funk through my older brother, Fu Manchu, rest in peace. And then my family traveled back to Africa. And around that time of going back and forth, because we went back to Africa, stayed in Zambia, then we'd come back to the US. Around that time, hip hop was birthing. So I had the opportunity to not only witness the birth of hip hop in America and in Africa, but to be a part of the movement. I was one of the first b-boy crews in Southern Africa. We were dancing in the streets in Botswana, I can still remember. And when we traveled to South Africa, we'd be dancing, we were repping. And I come back to the States. I was pretty young, so, you know, but hip hop was young also. So I kind of have a dual perspective right there.
Mm-hmm. Were you first? Did you first hear the music or see the dance? Like, which pillar came to you first? And maybe they go hand in hand. That's an impossible question.
Well, that's a good question. Which pillar came first? Um, I guess it's well, we made a trip back to the States. We were at my parents' house, and we didn't really know their kids, and we're just kind of sitting around. And one of them was like, "Have you heard the Sugar Hill Gang?"
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, "No." And then they played for us the Sugar Hill Gang, and we were just like, "Wow!" For those who don't know the Sugar Hill Gang, do your research. Classic, like first hip hop track. And then at that time, when we got back to Africa, I remember hearing, man, I don't know the order, but just hearing tracks like Roxanne, Roxanne,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually I just had to pick up the pen, and I became an MC, and became part of the culture.
Mm.
Yeah.
So,
So,
when did you arrive to the name Akim Funk Buddha? Was that then?
well, actually, back then I used to call myself Royalty, and T was for my first name, Tabang, which means happy in in uh, in my mom's side. She called me Tabang, which means happy, and then Akim is my middle name,
Mm-hmm.
and Tabang is spelled Thabang. So when people pronounced it, they'd pronounce it as Thabang, you know.
Uh-huh.
And I went back and forth. Should I change it? And at one point, it was being pronounced as the Bang. That was an interesting. But as I became an MC and developed my name, Akim just became an easier name to use as an MC.
Mm-hmm.
People kind of had to be able to say the name. And then, as far as the Funk Buddha part of it, it was really an organic process because it was like, I just remember feeling the funk, and I was really into Eastern philosophy, and it was always about demystifying the mystical by making it accessible. And I felt like part of my journey is to bring the funk to the Buddha and the Buddha to the funk, because also what happens is a lot of times these philosophies and wisdoms, the people who kind of present them often are not ear to the ground, feet on the concrete, like what the urban folks is going through. And I felt a disconnect there. But really, all these things is tools, spiritual tools, or however you want to call it, to how to function in society. And really, it can be funky, can be soulful. It doesn't have to be a kind of a cheesy, new agey thing, which unfortunately, that's the slant that it gets taken into.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's my long answer or short answer.
So, the spiral of doom. Let's see, and I'll see if I. Oh, there you are. Great.
Could you say that again? You froze. Sounds like you're on another planet all of a sudden.
You, you,
Could you
you
hear me
founded one
okay?
of the first. Yeah, I can hear you. You can hear me now.
Yeah,
Okay, great. You founded one of the first breakdown crews in Zimbabwe.
yeah.
Can you speak to what the style was like, and how did you find each other? How did the crew form?
Well, I won't say, I found it, but I would say we, because there was like a group of us. It happened really organically. I had my cousin Pep, my younger brother Do Me Right, and I mean, we used to watch VHS tapes that would make it our to Zimbabwe. We would watch, movies like Beach Street, and then we would practice the moves. And it was so raw that right then and there, after we'd watched the movie, we'd battle right there in the cinema. And what was funny is, now you have to imagine people hadn't seen moves like this, windmills, turtles, and such. So a lot of people thought it was fake and or kind of camera tricks. But the reality got shook when, after the movie, we would battle in there, and then we'd be busting out turtles and windmills, and we'd go watch the movie to battle. Things were kind of more raw there. You might think like, what? How can you battle in the theater? Why don't you go somewhere? It's like we would just watch the movie and we'd go at it, like in the theater, and there'd be like another real movie until they would like ask us to go. Yeah. So there was other characters in the group. We call ourselves Master Force, and we would battle another group called Street Syndicate, and there were other members of the group too. Most of them have passed on or disappeared. There was a cat called Takura. He used to do spinning turtles with a fist. There was Boy Blue. There was like a little collective of us, but it was very organic how we came together.
Yeah. And what year was this that you guys founded?
Good question. Doing this interview with you has made me go through my archives of pictures and times. All I can tell you was sometime in the mid-'80s.
Awesome.
Because I came to New York like 89, 90, and this had all happened, in Zimbabwe. So this was like mid to late, maybe even early 80s. This was what was going down.
So yeah. So before you returned back to New York into the US, you did some travels.
Well, actually, as a family, we did some basic travels, but I came to the US, and right when I came to the US, I started traveling.
Okay.
From the US. I traveled in the mountains of Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia. Again, this is in the 90s. And I was squatting in the Lower East Side, and then I became part of a homestead in the Bronx. There were some homesteads as well in the Lower East Side. And then I found myself attracted to temples. And so when I would travel, I would go visit the monks, and they would be very curious as to, this brother showed up there, and I would say, I want to meet the head monk of meditation. And they were like, why? And I was like, I want to talk. I want to have discourse with you. And they would ask me, what's in your bag? And I had a bag of instruments. And so I would say, oh, you want to know what's inside the bag? And they would say, yeah. And I'd take out an instrument. It would be a rattle from South Africa. And I'd take out another thing. It would be a bell from one of my other travels. And then I'd pick out another thing. It would be a rain stick. And then I would start to hand them to the monks. And then they were looking at all my instruments. And I'd pull out a little drum. And next thing you know, I'm drumming. And then the monks are very curious. So they'd be peeking in the room. And before you know it, I had a little jam session going on in the a temple in Thailand. And that picture you showed of me and the monks,
your face
was, well, yeah, that bell he's playing is actually mine. This picture was taken with like a disposable camera, and by my feet I have like a didgeridoo, and there's like all kinds of rattles and bira, and as they started to play these instruments, I started to move and dance. And you're not supposed to be, you know, dancing and setting off jam sessions in temples. It's very meditative, but the energy I was doing it with, they were with it. You know, it's like moving slowly like this, feeling the energy. And one thing I want to make clear, like, I know my name is Funk Buddha, and I'm traveling through Asia, but there's a spirit. When you start to feel the spirit of the universe move through you, there's this way you move, and the Zulu warriors would also move similarly, like opening and contracting. And my roots are in Ndebele and Zulu, by the way. And one reason why I started to travel was because I saw a Channel 13 clip of somebody dancing, and I thought it was me, because this person was moving with energy like this, left and right and up and down and pausing, hands stretched to the side. And then I would be like, hey, that's me. They didn't get my permission for that. And then I realized it wasn't me, but it was a temple dancer. And then I was like, wow, they move like that over there. And I would travel to these temples abroad to share what I was doing, you know. So some people kind of have a very linear kind of perspective of things, and think that, oh, you went there and you got this way of moving, and then you changed your name to the Funk Buddha and then came back. Nah, I was the brother from the mother, chilling in the Bronx then. I was feeling the spirit. And yes, I know I perhaps have contributed to the confusion by calling myself Funk Buddha. But all Buddha means is awakened mind, you know? And it's what just came to me at the time. I really didn't put that much thought into it. I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to call myself a Funk Buddha. It just kind of spontaneously happened. And so I would travel around the world sharing this energy movement. And like, if you're receptive, you can feel energy around your palms and your face. And so I'd move with that energy. And that's what I would do when I would travel.
Awesome. I love it. And I'm going to take a pause here. Thank you guys for tuning in and sticking around. Shout outs, Asmani, George, Anna, Flash, Melanie, Chihiro, we see you. Shout outs to the parents out there. Shout outs to the parents and the families that are still creating and involving their children in the process. And we're going to get to that, you and me. So I would love to hear and have you share about urban tea ceremony, because I know it's that process and pursuit has developed in your travels, but then you created something unique of it that's situated here in New York. So what is urban tea ceremony? How did it come about?
Okay. Yes, shout out Clayton Craddock.
Yeah, go ahead and do your shout outs if you want.
Yeah, he was the drummer of my first band in New York called Diffusion. So for some reason, I was in the Bronx, right, in this abandoned building that we were like renovating, and I can still remember it was raining, and so my apartment was leaking. And back then I had a cassette of these Tibetan monks chanting, and I got it at one of those Tibetan stores, and somehow the bells and the monks chanting and it just put me to a very meditative space. And I made up a theatrical of me traveling to the East, and it's partially based on a true story. When I was in Thailand, one of the monks kind of challenged me and was like, what do you mean by, why are you here, kind of deal? And I said, I'm here to share my dance. I'm here to share. And they were like, dance? And I was like, yes. And he was like, well, we meditate, you know, we're not about dancing. And I said, well, I'm going to be doing movement to express my true nature. And he was like, what do you mean by true nature? He kept kind of grilling me. And I'm really kind of summarizing the story, but I had been invited to share my work. And so the lady who invited me actually rang a gong and was like, yo. Well, she didn't say yo, but I'm saying yo now. The gong said yo. She hit that gong and said, yo, let the brother be. He's traveled here to share what he does with us. And this monk kind of took a breath, and by then I didn't even feel like dancing anymore. You know what I mean? Because actually, as bold and as strong as the movement is, it's actually coming from a vulnerable, naked space. And I didn't feel like dancing anymore. And if there's one thing I've learned, though, is that when you do dance, you should express what you're feeling. So I was feeling sadness. I was feeling fear. I was feeling frustration. And so I went into the circle center and I just collapsed into a ball, like fetus position. And then something said, let your hands out. And then my fingers started kind of trembling. And part of the process is to let the thing happen to you more than you it, and not to move from the mind. And as it started happening, it's a balance then of kind of facilitating what is happening. I let my hands tremble and start moving, and I started to conjure this energy that I would like pull from around me, and then I would inhale it or drink it, and then I would pass it to the next monk who was there, and it went round the circle until it came to the monk that challenged me, and gladly he took the energy. He didn't drink or interact, but he passed the next person. And as this energy went round, I was moving with it. And at that time, it was more about energy than chi. Then when I came back to New York, I had a show at La Mama Theater, and I turned that experience into a play. And the artist I was working with was from Japan. His name was Kazuma. And I recreated that story of a monk challenging me, like, you know, who are you? You know, what do you know about true nature? And I answered all those questions through rhyming. And then later on over the years, I met Chihiro, who's from Japan, and she was a woman. And then as I was developing the piece, it took on another angle, and she welcomes me into the tea house when I come, and she's confused when she sees my boombox, you know, and a brother from a mother. In the story, she's confused. In reality, she's not confused. You have to understand, in the story, I'm like traveling through time, and it's like he's in the woods having tea, and the brother pops up in the boombox. So she's kind of like, what? But, you know, as a kind of more geisha energy, she's more like,
Is like this one? This is not Chihiro, though.
No, that's not Chihiro, but she's the other. She's behind your face. Yeah. Oh, Chihiro's next to me there, standing up next to me.
Okay, you can see a tiny Chihiro. Yeah.
Yeah. It became a signature piece of mine, and ever since then, I've traveled back to Japan. I actually won a grant from the U.S. Japan Commission, also partnering with the National Endowment of the Arts. And I went to Japan to learn more about the tea ceremony. And there's a picture. I was sitting with a gentleman there in a white robe on a stage. That's me and Roitaro. He's a tea master, and he started to teach me the tea motions. And this is actually TEDx Tokyo in Japan a few years ago. So that's the story of tea.
I have so many questions, but they actually all link back to sound. Do you remember what that gong sounded like when she set it off and kind of recalibrated the room?
Do I remember what it sounded like?
In your memory, yeah.
Yeah, I do. Do you want me to like recreate it or something?
Yeah.
Are you doing some creative instigation?
A little bit. I had a couple
Okay.
I was going to keep going with.
Okay. Yeah.
It might be more than one today.
Okay. So after a while, you become, a lot of these things sound like interesting concepts, like don't play the instrument, become the instrument, right? Mm-hmm. And if you really start to understand things as vibration, then you start to have a different appreciation for sound and the overtones within that sound and the sound that is occurring when it's apparently silent. And so I would say the gong was like something like this. Something like that.
Thank you.
I don't know how that sounded through the phone.
It sounded like a gong.
Yeah, very low.
Mm-hmm.
Very low. Yo.
Yeah.
Yo.
Do you know, and I am definitely creative. I feel creatively instigated. So do you know about how many octaves your range is? And those of you who are coming in now, we've been talking for about 20-25 minutes. This is Akim Funk Buddha. Half of the folks seem to be coming from you, Akim, and half from me. So it's like a nice little audience of supporters. Much appreciate you guys being here. Do you know how many octaves your range can go?
To be honest with you, I don't know, but I know that when you start to, there's like 6 or 7 octaves when you start to
then you can't hear
do the overtones.
Yeah,
when you start to do overtones,
mm-hmm.
It starts to fractal.
Yeah.
So
and that's you get like whistle notes and then octaves above.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
one's dogs can hear, but we can't as humans.
Yeah. So to tell you the truth, I would need I'd need a machine that measures sound waves to hear all the octaves.
Wow.
An overtone.
But you know that you're creating them are the ones that you can't hear than yourself.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Let me demonstrate.
Yes.
Let me demonstrate, and you'll hear 2. It's kind of like colors, right?
Yeah.
If you say how many colors are there, you could just mention the ones in the primary scale or whatever, mm-hmm. But there's more colors than that, the more you mix, right? So I'm going to do one tone, and then behind that tone, I'm going to try to do a second tone, mm-hmm. and then I'm going to attempt to do even a third tone. So it sounds like there's somebody like whistling, and then somebody whistling behind that whistle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me prep real quick for myself, and also, this is called polyphonic. Sometimes multiple notes, multiple sounds at once. So if you're watching, as you listen to these sounds, you might hear one at first. There's up to 3 you can hear, and they'll come in maybe at different times. I want you just to pay attention to the word that pops into your body. It can be a feeling, it can be a movement, it can be a word that you can type. You know, it could be an emoji. I don't give a shit. But if you could share that, that's always my favorite part of when we come together in the cyber community. I see y'all watching and been watching, and I very much appreciate it. Akim,
Yes.
I'm ready.
Yes, thanks for saying that, because as we move to media like this, we've got to keep the interactive part of it alive.
Mm-hmm.
We're not TV here where you just sit passively there. So yeah, that's actually something I do within my workshops as well, from poetry to movement. We share how the sound and movement makes us feel. Okay. Also, some other names to refer to this is overtone throat singing. I'm inspired by Tuvan throat singing, that some people also call Mongolian throat singing. Okay, so I'm gonna start off mic, and then I'm gonna pull a mic, because I'm also curious to hear your feedback of what sounded like on mic and off mic. In whether the overtones got stronger or faded away with the mic, right?
And give your feedback, guys, because this is helpful for us.
Okay. Okay, here we go. All right. So let go of your analytical mind. Here we go. Thank you.
Yay! Wow, the only other time I felt that way, and I only experienced it this year, was singing bowl. That's what you do with your throat. Yeah, it's so round, but then when you do the bird noises, that's a whole different part of your like organs. And so I appreciate the amount of skill you have, because it's not something I get to see a lot because I'm just younger. But you've been studying and working at your practice a long, long time. And I have a deep respect for that, because to be able to do that across continents, and for us to all be here now in New York, in Brooklyn, building this village, this is what keeps me inspired. So like it's
great. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, the bird sounds, that is just my own thing that I started to do, exploring sounds. The throat singing was the main thing. And then of course I beatbox, so I was kind of flavoring. I was informing and letting my throat singing be inspired by my experiences, which ultimately I believe that's what you're supposed to do. Be it hip hop or classical music or throat singing or dance, let yourself be inspired by whatever it is, who you are and what you are, and bring that element to it. A lot of the times people just kind of do the thing and they don't like explore beyond that thing that they're doing. Of course, that's their choice, but I believe it's a journey to get closer to who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so much that we can talk about, and I feel that way about so many people that I know are also here right now. But I think this is a great moment for us to introduce what's going to be happening over the next season, and then we'll continue. Then we'll wrap up. We have 10 minutes left for us, and then we'll swap. So would you like to introduce and debut?
Yeah. So first of all, so if anybody wants to comment there, because I'll be doing this again, what it sounded with the mic and what it sounded without the mic, the throat singing. And also feel free to, if you understood the overtone thing, feel free to comment on that. So
it was going like this, in and out of the microphone, because you created a reverberation. There was more dissonance between the notes. So that's what was happening back at me with my device, actually.
Yeah.
They're very powerful. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. So just like turntables initially was just a record player, right? And Grand Wizard Theodore was in his room and his mom opened the door and bumped him, and it made him scratch the record. And then we had scratching. And then now turntables outsell guitars, you know, and it turned it into an instrument. So just like the turntable was creatively appropriated, we got to figure out how to make these tools facilitate what we want to do with them. So I just wanted to say that too. So what I have now, I actually just got an email from this award called the Edge Cut, and it is, thank you. Edge Cut was offered by New York Arts Live and the New Museum, if I remember correctly, New York Live Arts, and they are looking for work that can be on a digital platform that is interactive and informative, etc. So I'll be doing that December 5th. So stay in tune. And then also I'll be doing a Brooklyn Raga Massive on December 15th. So stay tuned for that too. Also I do poetry workshops for youth on like Thursdays on Zoom. On Tuesdays on Zoom. And then I'm also starting to do experimental movement classes where we move with the energy through media, through technology. So if these kind of things interest you, give a shout out or just keep in touch, whether you like to participate or just be in the loop.
Yeah, and follow Akim Funk Buddha, follow Alpha Arts Alliance if you have ideas of how to collaborate, because Akim is going to be continuing to now come on here weekly over the winter and start to host and interview other amazing people and creatives. The digital world. Okay.
Shout out to Joy. I think I just saw you there from LA. I remember, let's see, how many minutes we have left?
5 minutes. 3? Yeah, I'm gonna grab
5 minutes?
with 3 minutes, yeah, and then 3 to 5 minutes. I'm gonna grab my
Okay.
computer. I'll let you just entertain them for a sec.
Okay. Yeah, special shout out and thanks to all of those who support creativity. Shout out to Kimberly Galaxy, who's in the other room holding the fort down. Shout out to Apollo, who is sleeping. He's my 9-month-old son. Shout out to him. He is sometimes when situations is just crazy, you look in his eyes and you're like, well, that makes sense. The calming force of a child's eyes. And there's a child inside of all of us. And as we get older, we're challenged to keep in touch with that child. Do I need this mic? I'm just used to holding a mic.
No, put it down. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I haven't been performing much because of COVID, and I had the mic, and it's
No,
not comfortable.
you're not the only person I've done this with. Okay, I'm glad you asked. I'll tell you.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm just
Yeah.
yeah. If you have ideas of how to work together, how to work with kids, how to work with kids online, if that's something you care about, which I assume you do because you're here, we're already talking. So Akim is just like about to multiply, and
Yeah.
him and yeah, the children.
Yeah. Basically, when I was coming up, boy, would I have loved to have met someone like myself. And instead, I was met with all this resistance, and you're always like going against the grain. But still, I managed to just go out there. I was performing on the street, busking back in the day. And then I, formed a band and took it from the street to Baby Jupiter's, where I developed my craft. And then from Baby Jupiter's, I started doing little college tours and so forth. And then, massive gentrification and Baby Jupiter shut down and I had to figure it out. That's me at Brooklyn Music Academy with Chihiro right there. And I combine also the Buto aesthetic with classic hip hop, and the costume she's wearing. I can't remember, either I made that or she made that, or had somebody make that. We're doing Dying Swan. That's right. And we come up with these creative concepts to reinvent similar themes. So, for instance, like Dying Swan, or we create our own new themes. And like I said earlier, theme I'm working with is tea, urban tea ceremony, and may the journey of my path. And there we have Jessica there on one side and Gian on the other, and a headpiece was made right from a Balinese headpiece made by a friend of mine, Flambeau, who does fire. So whatever form you do, I tend to work with a lot of experimental dancers because they usually are into studying other formats. Shout out to Haruka Hurricane. But whatever you do, you should be, even if you're doing a formal, whatever it is, you should be experimenting. But I love to call it the urban alchemy. We are the urban alchemists, and we must bring our creative broth and let's make stew together.
So my last question, and it's such a pleasure as I've done these heart talks, learn about people that I'm curious about already more, is not only have you, worn headpieces, but you've also worked with cartoons. This is Sesame Street. This is Big Bird.
Yeah. Yeah.
1 minute.
Wow.
Tell us about Sesame Street. You got 1 minute, and it's my turn.
Okay. Well, you know what? I wanted to bust a freestyle, so I'm gonna do this 1 minute and talk about me dancing with Big Bird and freestyle. By the way, I'm also in freestyle, the art of rhyme. You can Google or YouTube Akim Funk Buddha Freestyle, The Art of Rhyme, and you'll see my clip. Same director is making a freestyle, The Art of Dance movie. I'll be working with Kevin Fitzgerald for that one. And well, I have about 49 seconds left. Oof. Today was hectic. My son just slept. I take a breath.
Yeah, sorry.
Start to manifest. He's out for the night. Light shining bright on my forehead. Back in the day, I used to have tiny dreads. Heard what I said. I used to rhyme with so-called MCs who pulled out gadgets and talked about lead. I caught the bullets and I drank them and turned them into vitamins instead. Haven't you heard? Catch the word. Next thing you know, I was dancing with Big Bird. Wow. He doesn't sound like that, but I sound like this. Interesting thing that I'll share that'll be funny to miss is that when he took off his headpiece, he still sounded like he did when it was on. That's peace. He was like, "Are you ready, Akim?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm ready." That's right, I'm him. And slowly we began to begin. We did the video with the Fugees. It's called Boo Yourself. No, Be Yourself. I said Boo Yourself because booyah is like a gun. Spiritual gun. That one is good for your health. So you could Google that and you see me dancing with the Fugees. Life is a mystery. We are the remedy. Come together, we create the key. Travel through the frequencies. That's the beginning of the melody, but it's the end of my time, see. So I see you on the TV that is inside of you and me. Word.
Word to the bird, word to Big Bird. Out there.
Yeah. So yeah, there was a lot going on. I was looking at the pictures that you were
I do
and
know.
off that.
They're stimulating.
There's also stuff going on around here.
We got
and
so
it's
much
interesting.
time.
Yeah, so when I'm rhyming, I actually experience blanks, and then I just see what I say sometimes.
I know, I watched that.
Yeah,
I will see brief. Okay, I'm gonna log off, save this, and be back on in 2-3 minutes, and then we're staying in the same spots on the screen, but changing energy directionals. So you'll see me go live again in like 2 minutes.
Okay, so you said I should save this. Does that mean I should?
I'll take care of saving. I do all of that because I'm the host, so it won't save on your phone.
Okay. All right.
Listen, I do live tips one-on-one. I'm gonna be doing workshops on this, guys. It's like PowerPoint. It's like PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
See you